Good evening, everybody. I've got some beautiful, wonderful friends with me today. As you can see, we are missing a Bronner. We've got a full house today. Full house. And so I'm taking charge of this bad boy. But
Hell yeah.
welcome to CCTV. We are doing Larpapalooza. Only because you ask, we listen. You want more LARP. And we've brought you some LARP. And so I've got my guy Nick with me, and he's brought some friends to the table. Nick, introduce
Yeah.
your friends.
These are some wonderful people that I get once every month, and then other times in our free time. I get to see these people as we attend LARP together with Vanguard LARP. These are some magnificent people who've been role playing for quite some time. They have very different experiences. Um, they've all done incredible, stupendous role play, costuming, you name it. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to just kind of chat with them, ask them some questions about their experience with LARP. And hopefully, those of you that are watching will learn something really cool from them.
Always. I learned something cool before we even started. So, who'd you bring to the table, Nick?
Sure. So we'll go ahead and we'll start our introductions, and in no particular order, I'm just going to kind of go around the horn. Courtney, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Courtney. I am on plot at Vanguard, and I've been LARPing, I think almost 2 years now, so I'm still pretty new, but I love it very much. And I won't take away any thunder from some of the questions that are coming up, but I'm really excited to be back on CCTV.
Sweet, wonderful. And Courtney, yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of things, with it being a couple of years, Courtney is one of the our newer people to LARP, but she definitely took to it like super duper fast, and she is on our plot staff team, helps run storytelling at the game. Just an incredible person. Next up, Cameron, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Cameron, aka Valamir Elsinal. I been LARPing since the ye old 2012, back in
The
back in high
the
school.
year.
Back in my day.
Wait a minute.
Um,
You were in high school in 2012?
I graduated in
Thanks.
2014.
Just stop.
Yep,
Okay,
I'm out
just
here.
stop.
Still a young buck. I'm a long time listener, first time caller
Oh,
to
he's a
CCTV.
baby.
I've been, out here doing my thing. I'm not on plot. I have plotted
You
like
and me both, Klaus.
one
You and me.
shots and stuff, but yeah, I'm
That's awesome though. Like that
joining.
you have that range. I mean, you've got people that have doing it forever, and then the fact that you're bringing in new blood like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm by far not the youngest
Oh, I
either.
know.
So
It
yeah,
it gets
Oh
younger.
no, you're not.
we got children.
Yeah, we do.
They
We
make
do a
great
kid friendly
dwarfs.
game.
They make
Hey,
great dwarfs.
Yeah, we have a kid friendly game, but we also like modify it so there's content to sort of meet people at their age level. Like there's content that's out there for adults. There are more mature things that kids don't really get involved in. But then there's also content that's more just kind of open to anybody, and also some kid centered stuff too. But what I will say about Cameron is that Cameron has been an incredibly outgoing player. He goes out of his way to get involved in things. His role play is fantastic. And what you'll find with all of these wonderful people is that their costuming is also just amazing for what they do. And he is our resident tiefling, does a wonderful job.
Yeah, thank you. I love you too, Nick.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. All right, Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
hi, I'm Chris. I've technically been LARPing for like 23 years now. Started with Parlor LARPs, then got into Boffers in 2009. Started with Vanguard when they did the reset to 2.0, and as of last month, I was asked to step up to Plot, and it's been a really positive experience. We have a really good team, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, Chris has joined our plot team. He's been doing an incredible job. He's the sort of person who just goes out of his way to make sure that people in the community are having a good time. He's very service minded and does fantastic work. Your pumpkin patch mod, which we'll probably talk about as we get into our questions,
Ooh.
was very much loved by many people. Very immersive, very cool.
It was fun. No, years of customer service led to this
Oh.
disposition. So
Oh.
it helps. Hey, you know what? Any skills you can bring.
I work in retail, so I get that.
Librarian.
I just really want to be the bad guy. That's all I want to do.
And last but most certainly not least,
Definitely not least sitting over there
Jess.
looking like that.
It looks
Hey.
amazing to the point where she is
Fantastic.
unrecognizable right now. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Jess. I've um, I've been LARPing for God, like 17 plus years, a long time. I am media, marketing, web development, and a bunch of other random stuff for Vanguard, so I'm staff. Um, but I don't want to ruin any questions. But yes, this is Jess under here. I wanted to not do the same thing I did last time, and last time was so outlandish. I was like, well, I set the bar too high.
Oh no. You said it high again. You said
Now
it
it's physical
so high.
transformation time. That is cool. I love it, by the way. Like you
That
look
is
super
fantastic.
good.
Thank you, thank you.
And
There's a
Jess
whole
is.
suit of armor, but that was like that's way too much.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine.
We can always do this. It's business. It's like the business Zoom calls. It's business on top, party on the bottom. I'm in PJs.
Oh,
You're
yes.
lucky.
Oh, yeah,
I've got pants on it all.
100%. I was like, I'm gonna dress from the bust up because people will see that, but I am not wearing immersive pants right now.
No,
No,
Not at
not
no,
at
no,
all.
all.
no.
But also Jess does an incredible job for my LARP Vanguard. She manages our website, she manages our social media, she does all that stuff. She's great with all of that. She's also one of our most outspoken, outgoing players, and is just like a huge staple to our community. So very much
Thank
glad to have
you.
her.
Makes a lot of
Thank
stuff for
you.
people. Really good looking stuff.
Golf clap. So this is Larpapalooza, and we have done a couple episodes, but just to bring everybody kind of up to speed and in just shout out what you got there. Somebody tell me, what is LARP? Just break it down to basics. Let the people know who haven't been here before. What is it? What do you do?
I like to explain it to when people ask me at work a lot because I'm pretty open about the hobby. That it's escapism with friends. Life can be kind of hectic, and with the pandemic, I got back into the Boffer LARP scene, and so for me, a lot of it has to do with meeting up with people, doing some fun, silly stuff, getting outdoors, getting some exercise, and just getting away from life for a little bit.
Yeah,
So that's for me.
kind of escaping real world. So what
Yeah.
about
Let's get some
somebody
more
else?
opinions there. Yeah, like how would you explain LARP to people that you're not familiar with?
I mean,
Like,
when I'm at work, I just tell people that LARP is basically Dungeons and Dragons, but real life. So you're acting it out. I also refer to it as, well, I go camping, but I beat my friends up with foam sticks in the woods. And that
you
sounds
sold me with that one.
stupid. I mean, that's kind of what it is.
That's almost exactly how I describe it is imagine D&D but then dress up and then run around and assault each other. Like,
But like, instead of imagining you are the character, you actually are the character.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
That's
Um,
kind of like what I do is I'll be like, for people who don't even know quite what D&D is, I'll tell them like, video games, right? You play video games. Imagine that you are embodying the character and you go out and you play it and other people are playing as the various different things that you encounter. And because there's no script, there's no programming, things can go very much more open-ended. So the decisions that you make, the choices that you make impact what goes on in the world, which is really cool.
that's kind of how I heard somebody describe it one time, is that it was a giant themed, costumed improv,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. And I was like, yeah, sounds about right.
I've had friends put it on their job resumes in the past where they just said it's improv act. It's basically like troop improv acting, like with your friends, like with the community on retreat. and that's what they were able to put like a different LARP group on a resume for a job one time. So I
Oh,
mean,
heck yeah. Polish that thing up. Put it on a business application. I work well with others. So I did hear something that I want to make sure we kind of split the difference. We talked about parlor LARP versus boffer LARP. So somebody tell me, explain that to the audience. What's the difference?
Well, I can go. So I parlor for a long time, but I've also boffered for a long time. Parlor is less costuming and overall a little bit less commitment. You go to an event site; it's not a full weekend. You play a character, but there's no like physical combat. There's no. It's depending on the game, it can be a little less visually immersive. Boffer is what you see is what you get. So we go to the woods and we dress up like what we're playing, which is not always required in Parlor LARP.
Okay, so it's more immersive.
There's
Yeah.
also a third type of LARPing called full combat, which
yeah.
Ooh.
typically typically this isn't the case in all of them, but typically it's more of like they take it more of a sport. And I have a close friend who does full combat LARP, and it's it's more of like typically you'll go out for like one day to a specific area, and it's more like actual training. We do what is called lightest touch, so we don't actually try to hit people with any full swings or try to hurt anybody, but in a full contact, like you were swinging for the fences. I've done a couple of full
Sold.
contacts. Yeah,
I
I've done a couple of
have
full
quite a bit of
contacts.
aggression. You sold. Sold.
They seem to be like a lot less invested in the role play though, which is where you
Yeah.
kind of lose me. Um, so that's why I don't do it as much, but they're fun too.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it because like parlor, it's very role play heavy because there's not like the physical aspect of fighting people. So a lot of what you do has to do with like politics and RPing with each other, establishing your goals through the intricacies of interaction. Boffer LARP, there is fighting, but you still are doing role play, so you're still making sure that you're like making a story. There's negotiations, there's a plot line that you kind of work your way through. And then the full contact, like Cameron was describing, is mostly just combat. Like you go in there and you do big fights, and that's kind of the whole goal of that.
I like fighting.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead with the next question. This is kind of like the basics, like LARP 101 here. But like LARP as a hobby, there's I don't know. Sometimes I think there's a barrier to entry, which is that like LARP. I don't know. For some people hear about it and they think like, oh, LARP is dorky, LARP is weird, LARP is different. Even people who play D&D sometimes hear LARP and they just immediately think,
They
I don't really want to
cringe.
do that.
It's
But
weird,
for
yeah.
those of us who have done it, we know that it's actually really fun and incredible. So my question is, how did you first get involved in LARPing and what inspired you to try it out?
So I personally believe that both of those statements are true, but like it's
Mhm.
all about like what level of which you own it. I was already in theater in high school when I first
Oh,
started LARPing,
yes.
and a friend of mine, Galen Pischke, took me to our first LARP
Oh, cool.
out in the mountains of North Carolina, and it was not a huge transition for somebody like me. I was already on the improv troupe. I was already in plays. I was already doing that kind of stuff. Um, so I first heard about it. I got into LARP actually before I got into D&D. So D&D was a harder sell for me because I was like, so you're telling me we don't dress up or do anything? We just sit here and roll dice and look at graphs? This is math LARP. This is dumb. But eventually I fell in love with D&D as well. But no, I mean, it's good to just like I my advice is just don't, if you allow yourself to submerge in something and take it as seriously as the world demands. So, right, like you're not going to wear a tuxedo to the beach, but you are going to wear a tuxedo to an event that requires a tuxedo. I can't think of one right now. I don't wear tuxedos, but it's
A
like,
wedding.
A wedding.
I don't wear them to weddings. But yeah, so I mean, it's good to take it seriously, but like, it's all about just like having fun and going out there and really just diving in, because the more you put in, the more you get out. And that's always been, like Nick was saying, I'm like always super engaged and super enthralled in everything, because it really is, the more you interact, the more you role play, the more you get into learning combat, like you'll understand the meta of the situation and have a lot of fun.
All right.
Any other stories? Anybody else? How'd you get into LARP? What inspired you to try it out?
When I was in college, I was kind of some friends of mine that were a year ahead of me. They used to do the World of Darkness tabletop games like Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, the Apocalypse, that kind of stuff. So I started reading the books, and then when I got to college, I heard some people in my class talking about Vampire the Masquerade, and I was like, "Oh, I know what that is." So I started talking. I'm like, "We do a LARP," and then my friends got me into a bar for LARP later, and then now I'm at Vanguard, and it's just sort of been a I've been gaming probably for over half of my life now, which is odd to say, because I am old. But no, it was really just friends kind of pulling you in, and I think just like Cameron said, I was also in theater, so even though I was on the tech side, I still had somewhat of the improv background, and I had friends that were into that kind of stuff, and and it was really just more about like, hey, my friends are doing this, it can't be all that bad, right?
Right.
And once you give it a chance, I think most people realize, oh, this is actually really fun. I just get to play dress up and have fun with my friends. It's like, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
So there's a lot that goes into like the characters and how you're going to present them physically, what their backstory is. How do you guys come up with that? Like, what time do you put into it? What's your process for that?
That's my favorite part.
That's your favorite part.
Yes, I love it. That's honestly one of the reasons I love being on plot is because you get to come up with multiple characters and NPCs to bring into play for different personalities. So for me, um, I'm a counselor. That's what my like mundane job is. So it's all case studies for me. So I think about the characters and just get an idea for what kind of persona or, what kind of character do we need for the game, and then build off of that kind of this personality. And there's always some kind of character flaw or something interesting, I think, that the players can find out about a character. But it's really, I put a lot into my backstories because that helps me to better understand how that character is going to react. And if you prepare ahead
Mm-hmm.
of time, when you get in those improv moments and you get in that kit, you do embody that character more, so you can act like they would. Because a lot of the times, at least for me, like my characters are very different than how I am on a daily basis. So for me, it's kind of a fun puzzle.
Do you find that you kind of ground them within yourself? Like each character has a piece of you, or is it more like this is something completely separate from me?
I think for me, they are kind of grounded in like aspects of who I am, but they're caricatures of it. So
Mm-hmm.
they're exaggerations of different parts of me. Um, but there's also a lot that is not me on purpose, just so that it stays healthy. I think it's really important to recognize that we are not our characters,
Right.
but our characters can be parts of our personalities. So grounded, but not completely based in.
What about costuming? Jess, how do you come up with the beautiful creations that you always bring to the table?
Well, thank you. So when I'm making a character, I usually do a character sketch like I would. So I teach video game design. So it's the same concepts I use when I'm fleshing out like how these pieces are going to work together. But as I'm building my character, I look for nuance that would represent who they are as a person and how they would respond. And it can be tiny little things. So, for example, the character I'm currently playing at Vanguard is incredibly religious paladin of the light, which I haven't actually worn that costume on here, but that wouldn't be fun. You all see me in that. But she has all of these things that are a part of her that are just, they're so trivial, but it's part of where she came from. So she has like on her heraldry, she has additional tabards that have blessings on them from her deity, and she has a battle horn because she's joined a certain order, and she does like so all of her costume pieces are a reflection of who she is. So I love building things, and I love um, making costumes and monsters and whatever the scene would require. And I try to, as I'm sketching and building, plan who that person is. The last costume I made that was really cool was I made a giant bioluminescent jellyfish. Um,
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes, we
god.
did.
yeah, I
He looked
did.
really
Who is
cool.
the queen of the merfolk? And I knew she was only going to be out at night, and so as I was creating this concept, the whole thing was like, how can I be the most not imposing, but she's royalty, so she should be imposing without being threatening. And so the solution to that was to be bioluminescent. So I couldn't see more than 2 feet in front of me, but I glue, and it was just such a reflection of this character's supposed to be this engaging, warm creature who needs your help, but who is also very present whenever she's there. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I don't
it looked
I don't really
amazing.
have I don't really have anything to say on the construction side of costuming because Jess does that for me. She pretty much made my tail, is making my new thing, but I like to use it. I design my character around. So my character that I'm currently playing is like also super religious in a very different way than Jess's. He worships the god of death, and he's very into death magic and raising zombies and stuff. So I was like,
Oh, we
how do
got a
I?
necromancer over here,
Yeah.
huh?
But instead of going the normal edgy necromancer route, I was like, I want to make this guy like the last guy you would think is a necromancer. So he wears all pink. I'm a
Shut
tiefling.
up!
Everything in my
That is
kit
so awesome.
His
is
shield is a
pink.
heart.
Yeah,
He
my
has a big
shield
old
is a,
heart
a
shield.
heart.
Oh
Yep.
my god.
I have a pink sword. I wear a pink tiara, and I use it for juxtaposition, kind of creating an element of like when people. I mean, you guys can answer this. When people first saw me like show up, I think people were thoroughly confused as to what my character's intent was, like
Right?
in the world, like in the metasphere of where we were, and I love that. I love juxtaposition. I love like unlikely people doing unlikely things. That's like my whole deal. So
Yes,
That's
he was
awesome.
very pink.
It
I
was
think
very
And he
funny.
still is
I was
very
gonna
pink.
say, like, I think he's still pulling some of that character vibe from it.
that's my favorite color. So
He's easy to find at Renaissance Fair.
It's pretty
yeah,
cool.
Right? You
accurate.
can't lose
Very
him.
true.
That
Um,
that and I'm loud.
There is.
so
While we're talking about character creation, I do kind of want to jump in a little bit. I know I'm like asking questions, but I am going to kind of answer one a little bit. There is something I think when it comes to creating your character backstory, there's like a couple of things to try to avoid, and one of them is resolving everything. People who
Yes.
create backstories where they like this, I went through the story and I got through the resolution of it, and now I'm here in play. It's like, okay, and then what? Because this is your starting point. Your backstory is how you begin. So
Yeah.
if you've created a backstory where like you've already resolved your big conflicts, then what's left to explore? And that like you can kind of do that if you're playing like an old veteran character who comes in who's like seen their wars and now they're coming in and this is like their retirement or whatever. But like a lot of times I see people who've just created their entire narrative and they've left nothing open to be explored in play, which is I think a pretty big mistake. Another one is sometimes people leave like just a complete blank slate where they'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna put like 3 sentences that describe like the attributes that are already defined on my character sheet,
right.
and that doesn't leave a lot of room to grow. Like that doesn't leave a lot of room to develop. You're pretty much at that point like just hoping that eventually you land on a character. But I think it's best to think about like your formative experiences that will impact who your character is so that you have a frame of reference for what to play out when you get in play, and to leave enough things open so that there's room for growth and there's somewhere for your character to go.
Kind of what Nick said when I was thinking up, like, I played a dwarf before I stepped up to plot, and I was a Harville Flinthide, and I came in with a reason to be on this like adventure that these colonists were heading over to a new area in game. So my reason was that I was there to protect the fellow dwarves that were on the ship, and one in particular. That they didn't know that. So like when I'm coming up with a character, one, I like to think of how much makeup am I going to have to put on my head, because if you're bald and you do full makeup, it is a concern. But also, not just costuming, but also, what else? What's the reason for playing? And I think Nick really said that well. Is like try to come in with a you don't have it doesn't have to be a goal you may ever achieve, but just maybe some of your character's been working toward, and that's like what you're in play to do. It does help. It helps you be more immersive with other players, because then it's downtime. It's like, oh well, why did you come to know this? I don't know, man. I just showed up because that's what the game is set. Like that's, I mean, it happens, and there's no shame in that. But it does help if you have good reasons to want to engage with other people and share those backstories and those experiences to kind of build in play bonds.
Yeah, you're helping to build the story. And if you're not coming with that, then you might as well be an NPC. Not to be
Sure.
mean.
All
But you
right.
guys talked a lot about props, and you know, it seemed to be a very big part of how you built your character. Um, and just it seems like pieces to represent their identity. Um, a lot of it is very elaborate. Like I see pictures all the time. I get to, watch the videos, working at con, you guys always show up. Um, and it is extremely elaborate, and it's gorgeous and beautiful, and I can't pull that off. I slap a tear on and call it a day. Um, so what's the most like challenging part of that, other than, like, okay, I'm new, I don't quite know what I'm doing? Like, what is it for you guys? Is it materials? Is it envisioning?
Cost sometimes.
Cost?
I've been
Yeah.
between jobs for a while. I'm hopefully got a job interview tomorrow, so we'll see.
Woohoo.
Um, but yeah, like sometimes the cost is like, what do I have in the home, and what can I make work with what I have available? And that's what I think a lot of people do, and that's great. Like this shirt was $15 on Amazon, and it looks dwarfy. I don't.
Yeah. We got a pirate shirt in the cart on Amazon, so.
But in the past, I've also made my own leather armor. A friend of mine helped me rivet it. We bought the leather, cut the pieces, riveted it, dyed it, the whole 9 yards. So it's also like what you have time for, what your skill level is, and what you're willing to really, um, I guess, put yourself out there and try. Because you can try and fail. Like Jess does amazing things. She's, I think, helped all of us with our costumes. I know she hemmed my overalls so I don't trip over myself constantly.
I always hear that. I always hear, like, Jeff's the savior. Jess is the savior. Jess
Yeah.
hooked me up.
Made my hair over the belt. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
and several other things too. Now that I think about it, I think Chris kind of nailed it. Time and money.
Um,
Time and money. The biggest
mhm.
hurdles to anything in life are kind of the same
Yeah,
hurdles with LARP.
it's pretty
Finding
much.
the time, like if you're gonna craft it yourself, yeah, that's cheaper, and you can end up with personal items. But finding the time to be able to do that when you have so many other obligations can be tough.
Adulting
And
is
then if you're
hard.
not making it, then you're buying it, and LARP stuff can get expensive. It very much can.
That's true.
Um, Anybody who's been on Etsy has probably encountered garb that is used for LARPing, and it is pricey.
Oh, yeah.
Now, all of that having been said, if you're new and you want to play, someone will help you out.
Mhm.
And we have weapons in our trailer. We have a new player who needed a staff. I went and got her a staff. Her kit was not middle of the woods covered in pine needles friendly, so we went and got her some pants. Like, we have a whole closet that's growing of assorted things. So if you're like, man, I want to do this, but I don't get paid for X amount of, someone will put clothes on you. That is, don't let that be the limiting factor. There are weapons available. Don't let that be the limiting factor. Reach out and say I want to do this. And if you reach out, like especially to our group, if you go to the Discord, if you go to the website, you'll get me. Someone will put you in contact with somebody. So don't say, oh my god, I don't have dwarf armor. How am I going to play this? You'll be fine. We'll get you there.
We'll hook you up. Yeah, I hear that quite a bit, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the LARP groups and the individuals that get involved is that um, they're very much in it, heart and soul, and they, just open arms, embrace anybody that wants to be a part of what they're passionate about, and part of that is helping out their fellow LARPer. And it's, nobody's ever made to feel bad. It's very inclusive, it's welcoming, and that's just huge to find. And they're just amazing groups of individuals. So, love you guys.
Yeah, true. And there's nothing wrong with coming in with like the basics of a kit, like coming in with a tunic
You
and
would
some
hope so,
pants, and
Pyro.
then over time you can grow and adapt. Like you come into a game, you might get like a tag for armor, and like my very first game, I came in with a pretty basic looking elf kit, and then I got an armor piece, and I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna save up and I'm gonna buy myself something that represents that, and I did that. And then slowly but surely over time, I amassed this like really cool looking elven warrior kit, and that's sort of how I got into it. Now I spend way too much.
You have like a third closet for this stuff, Nick.
I have 2 rooms for this stuff
Yeah.
in my house. It's not. It's a lot.
But it's been a long time growing though.
Yes, it has.
So that's the part. And Pyro says that money should never gatekeep people. And you would hope that. I mean, you would really hope
Exactly.
that. And I think, that's huge because a lot of people will come into it and they don't have maybe the financial resources. But with our experience combined, we are Captain Larper. Um, and there's people with knowledge and experience to show you how to do things maybe on a budget. You know, um, I do have a question though, like
Yeah, go for
because
it.
I know how Nick feels on this topic. Um, but I want to ask the rest of you guys because the age old, like, the mechanic is the one who needs his car fixed, and the gardener is the one who needs his lawn mowed. Do LARPers really love Halloween? Or are they like, damn it, I don't want to do this anymore?
Like 100%.
It's like, I know Nick's favorite holiday in the entire world is Halloween.
Halloween.
I
Halloween
know
is the
that.
best
Same.
holiday.
Yeah.
Same.
There's not a
No,
better
I'm
one. Fight
I'm
me,
not a big Halloween guy. Halloween is
Cameron.
I'm gonna be
Cameron, get
driving
out.
on Halloween.
Change that.
Halloween is pregame to Christmas. I'm a Christmas man. I love
Ooh.
Christmas.
All right, I'll
I
see you
found
guys
your
later.
one
Favorite
flaw,
day.
Cameron.
Christmas is my favorite day.
I
So
can't hate that too hard because on November 1st, I changed from Swamp Hag immediately into Winter Elf.
immediately,
It's instant.
immediately.
And
It's
then I
so
would
At
be
midnight, you do the
yes,
swap.
yes.
yeah,
It's
and I will
so
be
yeah.
insufferable about it until December 26th, and then I turn back into a Swamp Hag.
I've got
But
the
that's
lights out
why
front right now, and the skeletons and all the ghosts and ghouls hanging up, and the cemetery on my front lawn, the lights. So I got to take all that down on November 1st, which sucks.
all
But
the special stuff about Halloween I do once a month. Halloween is once a month for me, so I'm good.
Spooky all year.
Halloween is amazing because it
Okay.
is a wonderful time for people to dress up, to go out.
Uh-huh.
I find that, okay, so like, I don't know, there's like Christmas, it comes with a lot of baggage, there's responsibilities,
There's
there's all this
baggage.
stuff. I have to get gifts for everybody, I have to see family, which can be great, but then sometimes,
Not
it
great.
depends.
Not
But
great.
with Halloween, especially as an adult, like I get to just go out, dress up, go to parties, hang with friends, do all these various different things. And I don't know, it doesn't feel as consumerist. I know that's like there is consumerism involved, especially with candy,
Oh
but
yeah.
and costumes. But I don't know, I love it. I love the idea of dressing up. And
I
a
dress up
holiday
for
that's all about that is
Aw.
I dress up
Aw.
for Christmas, so
I just want to pause for a minute and say thank you to the anonymous gifter for the subs that they have given to people in the chat. Thank you very much. That is appreciated. Um,
yeah, thank you.
I'm not gonna tell y'all how I feel about holidays because I feel like you're gonna jump me, and that's fine. We'll just keep moving with LARPing stuff.
Just
I'm
tell
not
me
a
your
holiday
favorite
person.
isn't St. Patrick's Day. And we're
Huh?
good. Never mind.
Nah,
I'm judgy all of a sudden, and I don't know why. I really want to know.
I I'm not a holiday person. So I
Oh,
have worked in retail for a long time. I am a
That'll
store
do it.
manager.
yeah, that makes a
Yep.
lot of sense.
I am a store manager,
Yeah.
and retail kills holidays for a lot of people.
I was commission
Um,
sales at H Gregg. Yeah, I 100%
it's
feel you.
it's not just the fact that in July I'm setting up Halloween stuff, and in September I'm setting up Christmas stuff. Um, it's the people too, because these wonderful, joyful times that everybody talks about. I don't get to see that. I get to see the worst of the worst.
Come to
Okay,
LARP.
Yeah.
I get to
No, that
see
makes
Yeah, for
all the
real.
sense
Come
in
to
the
LARP.
world. I think that the minute that you said you work in retail, we all kind
everybody
of
cringed.
sighed as we realized,
Everybody.
like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that sucks.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I enjoy bits and pieces of the holidays. I can take them in very small doses. So I do prefer Halloween over Christmas because of the stigma that Nick was talking about. There is less pressure to it. So, and then there's Thanksgiving, and I like to eat. So, but that's it's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I was
okay,
curious
I
though.
have I have a question for the group that relates, I guess, a little less to holidays, but a little more to LARP. So LARP is it's an experience, it's a process, and if you've ever been to one, you're probably never going to forget it. It sticks out in the mind, it sticks out in the memory. Can you describe for us your most memorable LARP experience? Something that happened that stuck out to you that you will never forget. It could be positive.
Or
Hopefully,
negative.
it could be negative.
I mean,
Hopefully not.
I could go because mine's pretty fresh in my mind.
Uh oh.
My
He sounds
last.
salty.
Oh no, it's quite the opposite.
Okay.
The last event I went to was the greatest LARP event I've ever been to. And it's like I can't hog the entirety of the time that we have here to explain every single thing,
That's
but
awesome.
I'll give you like my favorite part, if you can even call it that. Um, Me and Nick were we were talking earlier on, and I was just talking about some ideas, and I had planned to run a birthday for my character, which was actually inspired by a birthday that Courtney had for one of her characters. And I was like, yeah, man, I want to do something like cool, like make it. And I set up the whole thing and decorated for it. But I want to like make something cool, and we were talking about introducing a new race into. Well, no, I'm not, but he was introducing a new race into the game, and I
But
was
you were
like,
introducing it too.
well,
Ooh,
I was but a
ooh.
pawn. I was but a puppet to your puppet master ways. Um,
No.
I did earn it. I have been working towards something like it. I didn't know what I was working towards until
For
he was
like
like,
oh,
"Hey, I have this idea."
a season's worth of time, you've been
Yeah.
doing a whole bunch of necromantic, undead sort of story stuff.
um, but
You
yeah,
put in the
so I
work.
went. Yeah, I went to. Yeah, I essentially went to him and asked him if we could do it. Like did this elaborate transformation. He's like, I got one better for you. Let's kill your character. And I'm like, uh,
Oh
okay. Like that's.
Here's a
He's like,
counter offer. You die.
no!
he's
Right?
like, yeah, let's just kill you off, make this emotional moment. And it was during the field battle, which is the final battle of the night, the last big mod that we go on, and I died, and there was just this big emotional moment where everybody is in character and like crying, and like
Ugly crying.
everybody's like, "Oh no, Val's gone." And I'm like,
I'm gonna
"Oh,
cry.
it was my time to go, guys." And then we did this like awesome ritual where we like brought me back. I had to fight off death, and I was brought
Okay.
back by like the Azrael, the god of death. It was really cool. My makeup changed. It was like it was it was definitely the most. I felt like the most earned and most in play enriched moment from what I have done, because nothing I did felt like handed to me. It didn't felt like a gimme. It was like the most earned and most like rewarding moment I think of like my LARP history.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He
So now I'm
described it
undead.
so well. And I will, for those of you that are watching, if you're from the Vanguard community, I do have to throw a little thing out there right now. Tomorrow,
Uh,
tomorrow, a new racial document is about to drop, and you
Oh
can think
boy.
what happened to his character for why, well, partially at least, why that is happening. There is about to be a new playable race in the game that is undead and wonderful, and that's all I'm going to tell you right now. So stay tuned for that if you are from Vanguard.
oh, little sneak peek. That's cool. I know we got a lot of history on this screen though. There's, who else has some memorable, like just something that
Oh, if
stuck
somebody
with
else wants
you
to go.
all these years?
There's
It's
a
hard
lot
to
of history, man.
follow that.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard to follow that.
It's
Chris, you can go if you were about to say one.
Well, my very first boffer LARP. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was at a different game years ago. It's no longer playing or running. But my very first event, dressed up in costume. I was a wood elf. I had on just basic kit, boffer sword that we made like right before the event, and my friend. It was their November event. It's called Dragon War. So there's a big PvP thing, and they set us up as a chessboard, and I had to fight somebody as a pawn, and it was their king who just completely one shot me like right off the gate. Like there was no chance. I had zero chance in this fight, but it was still kind of interesting. And then later in the night, three different racial groups or heritages, if whatever terminology you want to use, they got together, and so one group was in the middle. We were me and two women were wood elves all together, and we were chanting over two different groups doing counterclockwise chanting in between to do this mega
oh boy.
ritual while there were people fighting around us to protect us from shades and shadows that were trying to disrupt the ritual, and I couldn't fight back, so I just kept getting killed over and over again. But I'm trying to remember where in the cadence our singing was. Like this went on for like 10-15 minutes, and I was hoarse afterwards, and it was just that kind of sealed my love of boffer larps. That's when I like realized, oh yes, this is 100% for me, and I will be back. Thank you very much.
Right?
Oh, yeah, thank you for that. I have a follow up question. I'm going to ask, since we heard from Cameron and Chris, for this one, if we could hear from Cordy and Jess. So, LARP is full of serious moments, and they help build stories, they drive them, they get them to their fruition. But also, LARP can be very humorous, whimsical, and sometimes downright silly. Could you share with us a humorous story from a LARP event that you attended?
Thinking that too.
It's
I
either
was like,
something that you yourself experienced or something that you saw another participant experience.
man, it was getting really intense. I was like, I want to know the funny stuff.
Yeah, it's funny time.
Courtney, you want to go first?
Yeah,
Give
I
me the
can,
humor.
I can go. I think so. My first game as plot, I just was like, I'm going to introduce the most ridiculous character that is so not me. And that turned into a pink Lolita bat character
Ooh,
named Callie. And so the mod that I wrote for her, this bat, she is vision impaired, so she has big glasses, but her glasses, she in her, of herself, I think is hilarious. But she lost her glasses, so she needed help with that. And then she had lost her bag of supplies. She's a tailor. And she said that in the woods, a dragon had taken all of her stuff, and the dragon was in the woods. She heard it growling. She was flipping out. Um, and so I have adopted children now that I will fight God for, and they parkour.
oh boy.
So we have three of these young fellas who have more energy and good knees
Sure.
than I've
Uh
ever
uh
seen.
College students, for those that
College
aren't.
students, yeah,
Yeah.
They
college
got them
students.
good knees.
They got the real
Mhm.
good knees.
Even
Um,
in
Mm-hmm.
college, I didn't have the good knees.
yeah, me either. Um, but they weren't dragons, they were raccoons, oversized raccoons, who got into this bat character's fabric and started flapping it and throwing it in the air. Um, and they committed. These players committed to the bit. They were having the time of their lives. But what I loved was that the players were trying to not fight the raccoons. They got so creative. We're giving them actual real snacks, which they reacted as college guys do when you give them snacks. So
Right.
it was fantastic. But I had to stay in character and not be laughing the whole time. But it was one of those really funny moments of seeing players really get into NPC roles and make the mod, because otherwise it was really simple. It was my first mod, but really it was funny. It was funny.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay. So at game, I'm either laughing, filled with a righteous fury, or crying. And that is pretty much my three states. And all of you know that to be true. So trying to pick one funny moment, because I've drooled on myself. I've laughed so hard at games so many times. Um, Usually with Courtney and our other friend Mary Kate, because we don't know how to act. So, I guess the one that has lived on the longest is we were NPCs, so we were on Monster Shift, and we were told to be merchants. Um, but we were distantly related to pirates. But we were given essentially it was y'all can handle it, just don't let them kill you. Here's your stuff, get in there and get them. And as I'm walking out there, I'm like, if we're not the most endearing, lovable NPCs you've ever met, they're gonna kill us and take our stuff. So we created Merle, Girl, and Earl, who run an MLM, but it's boat based. And so we kept telling people they could be their own girl boss and trying to get people to buy these boats, but it wasn't a full boat. It was only half of a boat. So it's just a box with no bottom. But if you get four people to sign up, we'll send you the bottom. And it lived on because I actually got two people to buy this god awful boat. And one of them doesn't play anymore, but the other's our other friend Mary Kate. And we just have this god awful rectangle, and she's gotten two people, so I don't know what happens when she gets those other two people. And we had to figure out how to give her the bottom. What is the bottom of a boat? What does that even mean? Like, do I give her a board? But I was laughing so hard for the entirety of that. But oh man, there's so many. I played a hillbilly mama with a whisk that was as big as I am. Nick knows what I'm talking about. I played um, we pooped on trees once because we didn't know how to feed them. So I was like, well, what else do you do? So we all just
What?
pooped on some trees.
That one
Like,
was good.
there are so many examples of dumb stuff I've done next to these like profound moments. Like, I'm crying and screaming and hugging someone, and I just pooped on a tree 10 minutes ago. There's a lot. There's a lot.
You need to
Yeah.
just make the boat like a pyramid scheme.
It's what it is.
Like,
It's 100% a pyramid scheme.
nobody actually gets the bottom. They have to keep recruiting. That's what they
Oh
got.
my god. I don't know. I kind of want to give her like sample boats that are just tiny rectangles. Like, oh man, it's a whole
Just
mess.
give them like a little miniature and say, I didn't specify the size.
Oh,
You know.
that's what I'm doing.
Mhm.
You just solved my problem.
I'm here for all your problem solving needs. Nick, what's some of your funny stories? I know you've got some.
I
What's
do.
the funniest thing?
Oh my gosh. So probably the funniest thing I'm one of the funniest things I've experienced at LARP. Actually, a friend of the show, Seth, who has been a guest many, many times. He's usually my trivia partner. He and I collaborated to provide a very interesting experience with an NPC of his named Felix Veritas.
Yes.
And the very first mod was like I wrote this up and I designed this so like the players were basically going through like a Raiders of the Lost Ark style like make it through the weird temple and like all these obstacles and all these challenges you have to get through. And he comes in as this guy, this like part ferret like humanoid creature. We call them wild folk like, in our game. So he's like a humanoid ferret man who comes in and he's speaking with this like very nerdy lisp, and so he's like super like just very like disarming because people hear him and they're like, oh, he's funny, yeah, sure, whatever. And he wants the players to come help him find treasure essentially. So he takes them through this course where they're having to like jump from like rock to rock while harpies are just like slinging things at them. and he's saying silly things about how like harpies, if you feed them gluten, they get IBS, and like just ridiculous stuff throughout the mod. They're going through all these different trials and tribulations. There was even like the last room had the boulder thing come out, and if they were in the path of it, they got rolled over. So they go through all this stuff to get the treasure. And at the end, what they find out is that the treasure is just an action figure. And this guy is just a super geek collector who's trying to collect action figures. So they've been risking their life and limb this whole time just for this dude's like hobby. It was so ridiculous and thankful, and everybody like laughed about it. It went off perfectly as intended. It was meant to be silly. It was meant to be fun. He's shown up several other times, and every other time it's also been ridiculously funny. And the character is much loved for sure.
Hmm. If something happens to that ferret, we will all revolt.
I will fight everyone.
Hmm.
Yes, Felix is very much loved.
I don't know. The contrarian in me wants to do something to the ferret.
I recently at Vanguard got to reintroduce an old NPC of mine, King Oberon, who in the
I was
old
hoping you
game,
were gonna bring him up.
all of the goofy stuff was Oberon stuff. He's an automaton, so he's a living metal person, but like he basically like he came into existence with the abilities to read and to comprehend language and understand, but with like none of the practical experience of it. So the very first thing he did was pick up a book that was kind of like The Legend of King Arthur, and he read it, and he's like, oh, the main character, I want to be him. So he set about trying to do that for himself, and it had hilarious consequences. He had very little like common sense, but he had a lot of like computational ability. So like he'd learn half truths and operate off of those. He decided he had to be king. He found like they gave him the dump in town, and he turned that into his kingdom. Um, we did a whole thing about the Lord of Misrule, which Cameron, I'm sure you're familiar with now, which we brought it back, where there was like a competition to see like who would be the fool during Winter's Joy, which is like our Christmas holiday. And Oberon won, and then went about TPing people's cabins.
What the hell?
Yep. So that was a good time.
Hang on 1 second. Hey, Sean. There's a bot in the chat. Get it. Get it.
You know what?
There's a bot in the chat.
Hit it with a buffer.
The
Get it.
bot. Oh no.
Off with his head.
I think the funniest thing he did was there was a whole mod designed around. So he had like one of those like sticks with a horsey head on the top that he would ride around, and he
I love
claimed it was
those. I'm such a
horse
child.
Cogsworth, and that it was alive and everything, and it wasn't. It was always just a toy. But some children took it and ran off with it.
That would be
And-
me. I would do that.
Well, he interpreted them as cherubs. So he goes into town and he's like, there's little cherub demons. They stole my horsey. They're up to terrible things. And at the time, there was a paladin group similar to currently we have a Church of Phanuel. We had something called the Source Guard back in 1.0. And they heard cherubs, demons, let's go. And they're going around and they're like, everybody, buff each other, get ready, get all of your armor, bring all of town in. It's time for a raid. We're fighting demons. They come down to the scene and they find 3 children fighting over who gets to ride on the horsey, while this like old lady is trying to, who is the actual conflict. There was a witch who was trying to fatten up the children so that she could eat them. So, but they're just like, there's no demons. And Oberon is like, yes, I have to slay them. And I'm running around trying to attack the children while the players are like, no, Oberon, you misunderstand. But then also they're like, wait a second, something's wrong with this woman. And it just became this ridiculous comedy of errors where part of the mod was people keeping Oberon from committing crimes that he didn't understand. Part of the mod was helping the children resolve their conflict. And part of it was dealing with the witch.
Oh, man.
Very ridiculous times.
Good times to be had by all. I know I've said like multiple times that one of my favorite things is just the inclusivity and you know how welcoming the LARP groups are. How do you feel that you know that I don't want to say like it needs improvement, but do you think that you can improve, or how would you improve on making this more open and, getting more people involved and letting them know, like, what you guys really are about? Because I think if more people understood it and knew really what it was about and spent some time in it, I think they would be just as enamored with it as I am.
I do have a I have a response. I'll try to be quick. Um, I think that LARP has done a really good job of fostering community of people who have various different sexual orientations, various different gender identities and expressions. I think that there's a lot of people. I don't know if this is the majority, but more representative. We have like LGBTQ plus representation at the game. I think that where LARP could improve is making it so that people of color feel more comfortable. I think that that LARP has it draws from a very Western style of storytelling. Like when I say Western, I mean the Western world. But I think that we could expand and be better about introducing elements that appeal to like non-white people. Um, I think that that's something that anybody who's running a LARP needs to be consciously aware of and needs to be working to try to promote more inclusivity of people of color. And one of the best ways to do it, I really do think, is to have people of color who are helping to write the narratives, who are helping to write the
Mm-hmm.
stories. Because when you have diverse perspective driving story from the top, then you have diverse perspective represented in the content that becomes the world of your game.
I don't know. Can anybody say it better than that? I was like, okay. Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially with something that is not very widely known, there's a lot of stigma to it. Um, it's not, unfortunately, because it's the complete opposite. Most people think that you can't just walk in and join. You can't just openly do it, and that's kind of the thought process on it, is that it's a very close knit, circle, and it's quite the opposite. And so I think really just getting it out there, and the more publicity, the better. And letting people understand, what it's really about, um, and the actions speak louder than words type thing. Going out and showing everybody. I just love you guys. I don't know about anybody else, but I love you guys.
And I obviously love you all.
You guys are fantastic.
Yeah, no, you're fantastic people, and you bring so many great things to the game that I have the privilege of helping run. I think we're almost at our time, but to close things out, we'll do like one final lightning round. Leave
Pew
us with
pew.
one final pearl of wisdom. What advice do you have for people who are interested in getting into LARP but are unsure where to start or are nervous about their first event?
Go to the website. The chat feature works. And if you type, you'll get me. And I'm delightful. And I will send you, and very humble. And I will send
Oh
you
yes.
to someone. If I can't help you, you can go to our Discord or our Facebook, which are also on the website. And I will quickly throw you at our new player liaisons, one of which is Courtney, the other of which is uh,
My child.
one of her children. But he is the nicest human I've ever met in my life. Like, no hyperbole there whatsoever. The nicest human I've ever met. And there are plenty of resources for you available. Just because you don't know they're not there, I know they're there. I will get them to you. So
She will hook
if you
you
want to
up.
do it, just just go to the website and send me a message. I will throw you at people pleasantly.
Figuratively.
Um,
Beautiful.
I I think this kind of goes back to what we talked about with costuming too. Is that I have a friend who's thinking of coming, and he's looking at a benefit versus, well, if I buy like $100 sword, but I don't like this, then I'm out $100. And I said, no, just come. Like we said before, all of us have enough costume. Collectively, we have enough costuming, props. There are Monster Town weapons you can borrow that we specifically make available to new players. It can be like there's $10 for your first game. If you're a brand new player, it is $10 for the full weekend outside of meals. It is fairly cost effective for a full weekend of family fun. And, I'd say just take the plunge and don't worry about it. If you need something, I have a bag of shirts. A lot of them look like this, but I'm more than happy to loan people stuff. I've had, cold weather's coming up. We have tons of people that have extra layers, hot hands. I will throw hot hands at people if they look cold. So please, like, I know cost can be a barrier, and yeah,
Golly. I'm always cold.
um,
Just keep throwing the
but
hot hands.
don't worry about how you look. Don't worry, like, if you just have tennis shoes, wear tennis shoes. We're not looking at your feet. We're looking at how awesome your weapon swings are and how cool your role play is. Like, so, and there's a website.
Ah, look at
Uh,
her promo, girl.
oh wait, you don't need me. This.
Sorry, that's all I had to say on that.
There's the bat.
There's the
Oh,
bat.
there's me.
There's the
Yep,
bat.
there's Kelly.
Yay. Um, I think I definitely agree with what everybody else has said. One thing I will touch on, I think, is the social aspect. Like, I have made my best friends at LARP. Absolutely. I love these people so much, and my life is so much richer both in play and out of play. Not you, Nick. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay, I
No,
damn.
guess.
I love Nick so much. No, it's just one of those fun things. Like, you are going to meet amazing people, and there are people who are going to grab you and bring you into the action. So, if you're ever you think like, oh, I really making friends as an adult is hard. Like, join a LARP because we get so hyped for baby LARPers or even people who are new to ours and they're not babies. Like, we're just super excited. So you will make awesome friends.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
to kind of add on to that, when you get to your first LARP ever, it's kind of intimidating because you're like, oh wow, there's like all these different groups, and there's like, oh, there's a church, there's a group of people who just sit in chairs, there's like a bunch of these different groups, and everybody has tabards. Our LARP is really, really, really good at like sucking people into those groups. Like, we have all been LARPing for a super long time, and we can kind of get like, oh, I kind of get your vibe and like what you're all about. I was a part of group and am now starting my own group of all new players. And I've got four people. Um, Only one of them is a veteran LARPer. All the other three are all brand new players. You will you will you will make friends whether you want to or not. Like, you will. We're like super approachable. We're always looking to add more people to the fold and to the story, and it's super easy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there are LARPs where it's like you're thrown in, there's a world going on, and you're like, okay, I'm here. That's not ours. It's just we get people engaged so fast, and I think that's what our LARP does better than any other LARP. I've been to 4 or 5 other ones. Better than any LARP I've been to. We have so many people who are just ready to get you into the fold. So,
Very
don't
welcoming.
worry about
Yeah.
that.
One thing that from doing the episodes, because I'm not a professional LARPer, that I have noticed is, and something that I want to make sure people know, is that there are levels to it. Just because you can put your toe in the water, you don't have to jump naked in the lake.
Yep.
Um, there are levels to it, and you can start slow and what you're comfortable with. Um, and then it becomes an addiction from what I hear.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just be prepared when you put your toe in the water. You know you're going to be naked in the lake soon.
Yes, but it is worthwhile. It's like if you
Yes, Sean.
if you played a game, right? Like the best thing I can think of is like people who've played World of Warcraft. have probably ended up in a situation where they're like, okay, I have to play this. I need to play this game. I need to play it. Yada yada yada. Yeah, that's cute and everything, but LARP will draw you in on a level that you did not think possible. And most, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like most people that really kind of like put themselves into LARP end up sticking with LARP pretty much forever.
It's a lifetime commitment.
Yeah, it
You
becomes a
have a
lifestyle.
subscription for life. Well, I think that wraps us up. Um, are we scooching, rating into anybody? Ooh, we are rating Nev. That is everybody's favorite elder being, Zarknor. So keep your butts in the chairs, hang out with Nev. Super witty guy, fantastic. Um, he's not a LARPer, otherwise I'd make him come on here.
Oh, he's an incredible trivia partner.
He is. He's super smart. I hate him. I love him, but I hate him. But I really appreciate all of you guys for being here. It is absolutely hands down one of my favorite episodes to do is the LARPing episode. Um, you guys were amazing. Love it. Please make sure to visit the website. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to any of these wonderful people. Um, it's right there.
It's so good.
Shameless self promotion.
No, absolutely.
LARPvanguard.com.
No,
The
no.
November
There is no
Vanguard event are
shame.
still
Promote that
available, if
all
I'm not
day,
mistaken.
every day. But thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Right.